With Michael Newcomer Photography, and today I'm going to show you how to remove unwanted objects from your photos using Photoshop. No matter what's your photography level, whether you're a guy with a cell phone or any intermediate photographer or a professional photographer, we all need to get rid of sometimes objects that are in there we don't want. This is a photo that we're going to be working on today. I took this in Sandley Park in Sanford. I had never been there before, and I know it's not the most exciting subject with all this concrete and everything, but I did not take a buddy with me that day to tell me that I was standing in a field of poison ivy. So I suffered for 2 weeks after this shot with poison ivy, and by golly, I'm going to make it work. So I am going to save this photo. And as you can see in here, I've got all kinds of wires and tree coming in from the side, some sticks coming out down here at the bottom. I've got this big branch of something sticking out in the water there. I almost thought about tearing that out, but pretty sure the park officials don't like that too much. So I'm going to show you how to do this in Photoshop. I know a lot of people don't like Photoshop. They feel it's too complicated. But once you start using the tools, you can really see what it does. And you're able to do pretty intricate work with it. So let's get started on this. I put an Orton effect on this. I just wanted a softer look, and I've got a long-term plan for this photo that I needed that effect for. Sometimes Orton will make it a little more difficult to blend in where we take these things out. So this is really a good picture for this subject. So I'm going to open this from Lightroom right into Photoshop, editing the original. And once I get it in Photoshop, I always duplicate that layer so that if I screw up really badly, I can delete that layer and I've still got my original picture. So I'm going to start up here with the most difficult thing is these sticks, that branch coming down into the cloudy sky. And I'm going to view up on this real big. I'm going to use a combination of tools on this today. And I always keep my history open because there's a lot of stepping back when you're doing this kind of work. So since it's such a large item, I think I'll start big, and we'll always see what that does, because sometimes big works right away and then you don't have to get onto all the integral stuff. So I'm just going to use my lasso tool here on the side, which just you can freehand draw anything you want around anything. It's just making a quick selection of that item. So let's start with this branch here. I'm just going to circle it. And then let's try, and I'm going to go to Edit. I'm going to fill that area, that selection inside those dancing green ants, or dancing ants there, with content aware. And what this computer is going to do is look what's around this, and it's going to fill it in. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I'll just see, and as you can see, yes, it filled in some of it, but it picked up some of these other branches over here. So and we'll go on to our next tool and see what else we have. Another tool I like to use is the patch tool. And any of these you hover over them, it'll tell you what they do and everything. I'm just introducing you to a few of them here today. So this patch tool is the same as the lasso. You circle what you want to get rid of all the way around, and then all you do is you drag right next to that selection over into an empty area, because it's going to pick up pixels from there and put it where your other thing was. I kind of like the patch tool because it blends. When it drops that in, it blends it to the surroundings, and that's both good and bad at times, and I'll show you more of that. I'm just going to continue to do that same thing here. And it blends. I'm going to be a little rough at first with it because we can always go back and fix things later. I'll show you how all that works. I'm just doing the same thing, selecting and dragging the selection. It doesn't have to be perfect, except that does. Okay, select. And Command D deselects, or you can just, here we go, drag it off to the side. Like I say, some subjects are easier than others to do this with. I kind of chose a hard one, but if you can get something like this and do it right, then you can do the easier stuff with no problem. This patch tool works really well on wires. All you have to do is drop it right in there. So we're going along, okay, pretty good here. Still going along. If you get too bored, feel free to scrub. Yeah, that didn't work too well. So you can always go back and reselect an area, have it drop it in again. We might have to do some more work over there. And get rid of this wire. Get rid of this wire. Wire. Okay, well that got rid of a lot of it. You can do it big or small with the patch tool, it doesn't matter. Okay, so now we have this over here. I'm not liking this too well. What's going on there? Yeah, it's still just not. Okay, gonna be stubborn. Okay, so for this section over here, I am going to, and this is where we're at so far. We're doing pretty good. So I am going to take a clone stamp tool. And this tool I like because you can see my brush up there. Right bracket makes it bigger, left bracket makes it smaller. And what it does, you can hover over an area you want to copy and you hold down the Option key. I'm not sure if it's Control on a PC. I only use PCs at work and we don't get along all that well, but I think it's Control. But I'm holding Option on a Mac and clicking to pick up where I want to sample from. And I've got my opacity set at 100 right here, which is kind of high. And then I'm just going to click in this area. You can even click and hold and drag if you want. Yeah, sometimes if you just click, it'll make a round spot. So you can see. Okay, we're cleaning up. Cleaning up. And there it is. It's all just, and nothing's like set in stone. You can always go back. And as you can see, I got my history over here. You can always back up if you need to. Okay, that looks pretty good, but it's still kind of, see how it's still kind of splotchy where I did all that removing from. I'm going to fix that in a second. I think I'm going to give this tree a little more leaves. So I'm doing the same thing with the clone stamp. I'm holding Option and clicking where I want it to pull from. And actually, let's do this one over here. I kind of like this guy better. He looks more natural. Of course, that doesn't. Okay. So anyway, we got the splotchies over here. So what I'm going to do here to fix this sky where it's all splotchy and everything is I'm going to you can either hit the B button to get your brush, or you can go over here where the brush tool is and click it. As you can see in the top, I've got my opacity set at about 36. I like it right around there because I don't want to do, I want to blend this area. I don't want to like paint over it really heavy, but I've still got my flow at 100. So you see where it's kind of solid over here with the color. So I'm going to pick from this area. If I hold down Option to give you the eyedropper and click anywhere there, and it will sample that color. And then release it, and then you just paint over the area. And it's kind of, and then once you release it, you're clicking and holding while you're painting, and then when you release it and you push it again, it's going to put another 37% on top of that. So you want to click and hold as long as you can to be really even with the distribution. Yeah, that looks pretty good. And okay, as you can see, I've still got some wires here going across. You can kind of see where they're going through the trees. And this looks like it'd be really difficult, but with the patch tool, it's not, because the patch tool, if you select straight up or down from this wire, is going to line up perfectly with these trees. At least that's the plan. So here it is. I'm just circled my selection. Now I'm going to drag it up, trying to keep that bark on this tree trunk straight in my new selection. And it might look a little, you can see it's giving you a little preview there what it's going to look like. And there. One of the things that's forgiving about this image that I'm working on now is that I've done this Orton effect, and it kind of gives a soft look to everything. I'm going to do smaller sections. Sometimes it's easier to work in those. There it is. Wire. You know, you got to have electric wires, but not in photos, right? This one might be tougher. Let's see. See where I've got a little bit of a thing there. So it didn't exactly blend perfectly, so I'm going to just pick some random leaves and do that to conceal what we've done there. There's one more here. Okay, so that's that. Now we move on. I'll show you how that looks from afar. There's where we started with that top part. Here's the bottom. That's gone now. Now I'm going to duplicate this layer again. I better name these. You know, if I'm going to show people this, I ought to do it right. So we're going to say those were the branch on top. So if we ever need to go through there again, go back to it, we'll know which one's which. This one we're going to call branch bottom right. So what I want to do now is get rid of this branch that's sticking out in the middle of the water like that. The one I was going to pull out and get arrested for. So let's for this one, I really want to, on the where the water's falling there, you can see how it's making vertical lines, like the pattern of it, and that's what's going to be the challenge with this one. So let's see what we can do here. I'm using the patch tool, just circling what I want to replace. You can be as intricate about it or as, and a lot of this is just trying things. See, it's not going to work, is it? Nothing's going to match up. Maybe. Not really. Again, the patch tool. See, I'm making that water line up where it's kind of spilling into the bottom there. Same thing. Maybe it won't go that big. You can kind of see you gotta, and we can go back and fix this in a second, like get it blended in a little better. But sometimes you can line up features. And the patch tool does a good job of blending in when whatever it drops in there. That's one of the reasons I like to use it. Okay, there again. It's all, see, the thing about this is we photographers know what we did to the image, but when it's done, the viewer does not. At least if we did our job right, they will not. Alright, so that looks pretty good. You know, I think I'm going to fix this a little bit with the clone. Again, over here in the toolbar over here. See how this is kind of, I don't know, kind of modeled in there a little bit. I'm going to just pick up some pixels here and drop them. So I'm holding Option and clicking to select what pixels I want to copy, releasing, and then going to where I want to put them, and clicking once again. Now you can also click and drag, but that's more of a paint effect, and for these I'm trying to actually line up the features of the water falling. Okay, so we've got that. And just a little boo-boo here, I think. That looks pretty good, I think. There's a splash going on there. Okay, so got rid of that branch. Now I've got these sticks down here in the bottom left I want to get rid of. So I'm just going to duplicate this layer again, give it its name. And those branches, bottom left. Let's do something about these sticks in the bottom down here. They're really kind of bugging me. So the challenge with this one is going to be trying to do something, and see how the reflection on the water is in there. I tried this once before when I was getting ready to show you guys this image, and it is a little tough, so we'll have to use a combination of tools on this. So I'm going to start with the patch tool, and as you can see, this is nowhere near an exact science, but we at least have to give it a whirl, you know, make it sellable. See, I'm kind of just trying not to veer too far from where I'm making this initial selection, because the light gradations are so drastic in this section down here. I'm kind of working very small and just trying to line up features of the reflection as I go. This actually was a lot more challenging than I thought it would be. And here's this. And it doesn't have to be absolutely perfect on the outset here, because we can always fine-tune it in a minute. Sticks are hard. I've done a lot of sticks because I like to shoot out in the woods and everything a lot of times, but they're harder than you would think they're going to be, because they've got bends and curves and they're always going every which direction. There's not a lot of order in nature, it seems like. Oh. Okay. Earlier I tried to do this in one great big clone, and that didn't work. I tried content aware, and it just pulled from over in the darker part of the water, and it didn't look natural in the slightest. So, and I think I've got enough of this selected out of this section that I might actually be able to get away with some content aware, so we're going to try that. So I'm hitting Command D to deselect any selection I might have going currently. Here's one more. Get rid of that greenery. Okay, and I'm going to go back to my lasso tool, and I'm going to deselect again to get rid of the dancing ants, and then just select right around this last little section here. Edit, fill, content aware, and this time that worked. You can kind of see what it's doing there. Got a little few repeating lines. We all know that nature does not have repeating lines, so I'm going to go do my clone stamp. What I'm going to do here is try to make this look a little more natural. I'm just holding Option down, clicking to select pixels where I want to sample from, releasing, hovering over where I want to put them. Very easy. Okay, I think that looks pretty good. So anyway, there's where we were before that little section. I think we got away with it. Previously we had the branch in the side. We got rid of that, matched up the features of the waterfall, I think, pretty good. Before that we did the wires and the branches at the top. There's before, after. I think that looks pretty good. So I'm going to go ahead and flatten that image. I'm done doing all the edits I want to do in Photoshop. hit Command Save. And since we edit original, it's going to drop that right back in, right over top the one I just had in Lightroom. So there it is. And just to show you, it's not really part of the selection part of this video, but to show you where I was going to go, because earlier I had mentioned I put an Orton effect on this, and I wanted to show you what I was going to do with that. So I'm just going to drag this into Luminar quickly here. I use Luminar as an intermediary between Lightroom and my Topaz Studio. So I'm going to go to my Topaz Studio plugin. I've got an effect picked out I want to put on it. And the reason I use Lightroom, or Luminar rather, as an intermediary is because I like, if I want to save from Topaz back into Luminar, I have a whole layer with just that Topaz effect on it, in case I want to brush in or brush out some of the effect. So I have one picked out that I saw today. What do you think of that? See, that's where I was going. I wanted this glowy type effect. The underlying Orton really helps add to it. This has some bloom on it, but I think the Orton effect underneath really helped it out. So I'm going to go ahead and push OK, because that is the effect that I wanted for this image. Well, there you have it. That is exactly how we remove objects we do not want from our photos. So I'll just show you where we started. We had, this was the original image, we had the branches up in the left, we had this one coming from the side, all the sticks in the bottom. We did our Photoshop work and cleaned it up quite a bit, and then we ended up, I did a Topaz Studio effect on this. So I'm really happy with how it turned out. If you have any questions, just leave some comments in the comments section, and don't forget to like or subscribe to my channel, and I'll have more tips and tricks for you soon. I'll talk to you next time.